The dawn of Eden. Welcome to an extraordinary journey. Life in the Garden of Eden. Step back in time to a place of perfect peace, where the first humans walked in unbroken fellowship with God. A world untouched by pain, filled with beauty and purpose, where every tree, river, and creature reflected God's design. Join us as we explore the perfect harmony and divine fellowship that once existed in the Garden of Eden, and discover how it shapes our lives today. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine stepping into a world untouched by time. A place where the air is pure, the rivers crystal clear, and every tree bursts with fruit, ripe and abundant. Welcome to Eden. This is more than a garden, it is God's masterpiece. A sanctuary where heaven and earth meet. Where man walks, not alone, but in fellowship with the very creator of the universe. But what was life like here? What did Adam and Eve do? And what can we learn from the life they lived, in perfect harmony with God? Let's step inside. The beauty and perfection of Eden. The Garden of Eden, planted by God Himself, was a paradise beyond human imagination. The Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there He put the man whom He had formed. Genesis 2 verse 8. Now picture this. Towering trees, their leaves stretching toward the sky. Vibrant flowers in every color you can imagine. Rivers flowing with fresh, life-giving water. Every plant, every creature, created to thrive in a world free from pain, decay, or death. And in the midst of it all, Adam. Adam's purpose. More than just enjoyment. But Adam was not just placed here to wander aimlessly. No, God had a plan, a purpose. Then the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to tend and keep it. Genesis 2 verse 15. Did you catch that? Tend and keep it. Even in paradise, work existed, but it was not burdensome. Adam's labor was fulfilling. Imagine him, pruning vines, gathering fruit, naming animals. He was a steward, a caretaker, a partner with God in preserving creation. And through it all, he was never alone. Because every day, God walked with him. Imagine this for a moment, walking in the cool of the day, and hearing God's voice beside you. What would you say to him? What would he say to you? Eden was more than a home, it was a place of fellowship. Eve. The gift of companionship. Yet, despite the beauty, despite the perfect connection with God, something was missing. Adam was alone. And God saw it. It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. Genesis 2 verse 18. And so, in a moment of divine artistry, God caused Adam to sleep. From his very side, He formed Eve. Now imagine Adam waking up, his eyes falling on someone like him, yet different. Beautiful. Designed for unity. His heart overflows, and he speaks words of awe. This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. Genesis 2 verse 23. In Eden, love was pure, untainted, perfect, a reflection of God's own love. Can you imagine a relationship without pain, without misunderstanding? A love centered entirely around God's presence? That was Eden. Walking with God. What fellowship looked like. Perhaps the most extraordinary part of Eden wasn't the beauty, or the abundance. It was God's presence. In Eden, there were no temples, no altars, no sacrifices, because God walked with them. And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. Genesis 3 verse 8. Think about that for a moment. Dwelling in God's presence. Speaking to Him face to face. Communing with Him. This is what we were created for. Unbroken fellowship. A life where every moment was spent in the presence of the One who made us. Why Eden still matters today. But here's the question, why does this matter to us today? Eden reminds us that we were created for relationship, not religion. To walk with God daily, just as Adam and Eve did. It teaches us that God is our provider, meeting every need, physically and spiritually. And it reveals that, even when humanity fell, God's desire for restoration never wavered. Through Jesus, the door to fellowship with God has been reopened. While the physical garden may be lost, the spiritual connection remains open. And one day, Eden will be restored. Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they shall be His people. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Revelation 21 verses 3 to 4. The invitation to fellowship. From the very beginning, God's desire for humanity was fellowship. A deep, personal relationship with Him. The Garden of Eden wasn't just a place of beauty, it was the original meeting place between God and man. Adam and Eve walked with God, heard His voice, and lived in His presence without fear or separation. But what does that mean for us today? Fellowship was God's original plan. Genesis 3 verse 8 tells us that God walked in the garden, seeking Adam and Eve. This wasn't just a one-time event, it was their daily reality. They didn't need a temple or rituals to access God, He was with them. That's what true fellowship looks like: closeness, communication, and trust. God's love is greater. When Adam and Eve disobeyed, they hid from God. Sin created a barrier, not just physically but spiritually. Yet, even in their failure, God pursued them. He clothed them, covered their shame, and set a plan in motion to restore what was lost. Genesis 3 verse 15. Jesus restored the invitation. Through Christ, the invitation to fellowship with God is open once again. Jesus says, "I no longer call you servants, but friends." John 15 verse 15. He restored what Eden lost. Now through Him we can walk with God again, not in a physical garden, but in a life of daily communion. What does fellowship look like today? We may not be in Eden, but God still invites us to walk with Him. How? Through prayer, talking with Him daily, just as Adam and Eve did. Through His Word, the Bible is God's voice, guiding us just as He guided them. Through worship, honoring Him with our hearts, as they once did with their lives. Through obedience, living in His design, experiencing the peace and provision of His presence. The invitation is for everyone. Revelation 21 verse 3 gives us a glimpse of the future. God's dwelling place is now among the people, and He will dwell with them. The end of the story looks a lot like the beginning, but this time, it's forever. As we reflect on this perfect beginning, let's remember that the invitation to walk with God is still open today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep gaining insights from the Word.